Hello, welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with more updates coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I've got lots of big news to share with you in today's video. We're going to start off with this story. As you can see here on your screen, Ukrainian Himars attack wipes out 3 Russian officers during meeting. So reportedly what happened here was this was located in the Zaporizhzhia region of Ukraine in Russian-occupied territory. Ukraine was able to locate a meeting between 3 Russian officers, I believe they were all captains, and targeted them with Himars. So what happened here is soon after the Himars struck the location of these 3 Russian officers during this meeting, we had a evacuation group that was followed up and dispatched to this location. They were also attacked by strike drones. So this was a very big operation carried out by multiple branches of Ukraine's military, and we'll talk more about this today. I'll even show you this video, as you can see here on your screen. We'll pull it up on the big screen for you just a little bit and go over some of those details. So very big strike from the Ukrainians today using Himars, and also you can see there was cluster munitions being used as well after the initial explosion at the very beginning here. So we're going to go ahead and jump into some other news as well that I have for you guys. We're going to be talking about this S-Link 2 power cable that was cut in the Gulf of Finland on Christmas Day. And I have some information on how NATO is going to be responding to that in the Gulf of Finland and also in the Baltic Sea. We're going to be seeing Estonia dispatching a patrol ship to the Baltic Sea to protect the S-Link 1 energy cable, as it has not yet been damaged or cut. So they're going to be stepping up their operations in the Baltic Sea and Gulf of Finland to protect infrastructure over there, as we've been seeing lots of attacks or potential sabotage on several cables in the Baltic Sea and now in the Gulf of Finland. So we'll talk about that today as well. And then also, we had a story coming out last night that I shared with you guys regarding a North Korean soldier that was captured by the Ukrainians. I have some information that may indicate that he potentially died in captivity and is no longer with us. So we're going to talk about that as well. So let's go ahead and jump into the news. I've got a lot of things to go over here with you today. We're going to start off here with Ukrinform, as it's talking about these 3 Russian officers that were eliminated in Zaporizhzhia region, according to Ukrainian intelligence. This is coming out today, December 27th, 2024. It says right here, 3 Russian officers were eliminated in Ukraine's southeastern Zaporizhzhia region during a precision strike operation. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry's main intelligence directorate, HUR, announced this on Facebook, Ukrinform reports. The successful operation involved the HUR's Active Operations Department, the Security Service of Ukraine, SBU, the Unmanned System Forces of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, and the Tavria Group of Forces. Okay, so we can see multiple branches being used here to target these 3 Russian officers in this strike. It says right here, Ukrainian intelligence obtained details of a planned meeting involving officers from the command of Russia's 4th Guards military base, which is engaged in the war against Ukraine. After verifying the information, military intelligence devised a coordinated plan engaging multiple units, including the Tavria Group of Forces, the 190th Training Center, the Unmanned System Forces, and the SBU's Typhoon Tactical Group. The operation began with a precision Himars strike on the location of the Russian officers and their vehicles at the start of the field meeting. Following this, Ukrainian strike drones targeted the evacuation group that responded to the attack. The operation resulted in the elimination of Captain Dmitry Nagorny, commander of the 1st Battalion of the 135th Motor Rifle Regiment of the Russian Armed Forces. Also, Captain Grigory Krokmalyov, if I'm pronouncing that right, Deputy Chief of Staff for Intelligence and Chief of Intelligence of the 135th Motor Rifle Regiment, and also Captain Yuri Fomin, commander of an anti-aircraft battery and the 4th Guards military base. Additionally, 5 Russian vehicles were destroyed in the strikes. So very massive hit here. Again, 3 Russian officers that were eliminated in this Himars strike and 5 Russian vehicles that were also destroyed. I'll have some pictures here for you guys in just a minute on X that I can show you of some of the vehicles that were destroyed in this attack. Okay, so real quick, we're going to hop into this video. It's about 40 seconds long, and then we'll bring you guys right back and we'll hop on over to X. Okay, so check this out. We'll be right back. All right, so pretty insane video to show you there with that direct Himars hit in the Zaporizhzhia region, eliminating those 3 Russian officers. So now we're going to hop on over to X here, and I'm going to show you some of the pictures coming out. This is that same information that's being shared from Max 24, the same information I just showed you guys on the Ukraine Forum outlet. So take a look at this. These are some of the photos of the vehicles that were destroyed in this HIMARS attack. And we can see also right here, okay? So pretty crazy, lots of vehicles being destroyed, and these Russian officers were effectively eliminated in this attack. So very big story coming out today. Again, 3 Russian captains and 5 units of Russian armed forces vehicles also being destroyed in this attack. So now we're going to move on to some other updates. I've got lots of other things to share with you here today. So this post is going to talk about what NATO's going to be doing in the Baltic Sea and Gulf of Finland regarding all these cables that are being cut. So this is from Anton Yurishenko. Alexander Stubb, president of Finland, and other Finnish authorities held a press conference with updates about the S-Link 2 cable damage. Here are some of its main points, information from Finnish media, yle.fi. President Stubb was asked whether the cable was a hybrid attack from Russia. He replied that no conclusions have been made at this time, but if we find out that it was sabotage, we will definitely attribute it, and immediately. He was also asked whether there was there has been, any diplomatic reaction from Russia. The answer is no, Stubb replied. There have already been 3 cable damage incidents near Finland within a year, President Stubb. He added that this cannot all be attributed to a coincidence or accident. President Stubb shared that he talked to President of Estonia, Alan Karis, and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. Estonia will step in and with actions to protect critical infrastructure, and NATO will also increase its presence in the Baltic Sea. So we're going to be seeing Estonia stepping in, and also NATO going to be stepping up their presence as well in the Baltic Sea, probably with more patrols, aircraft, things like that, to monitor many of these ships, because a lot of them go over to St. Petersburg to pick up oil and sometimes fertilizer as well, we've seen. These are many of Russia's Shadow Fleet vessels that could be launching more attacks if they are involved in these cables being cut under the water. So NATO is concerned about that, and they will be stepping up their presence. Also says here, Estonia has sent a patrol ship to the Baltic Sea to protect the S-Link 1 energy cable. The vessel will be in active contact with the Finnish Navy and border guards of the neighboring country and will act on the basis of mutual agreement. By preliminary information, Eagle S, the ship detained for being a suspect in damaging the cable, belongs to the Russian Shadow Fleet. 4 data cables are also currently out of service. Police of Finland will launch a seabed investigation at the site of S-Link 2 electric cables damage. The guard ship Turva is heading to the S-Link 2 site today. The officers of the crew of Eagle S vessel are cooperating with the Finnish authorities, President Stubb announced. Okay, so as far as we know, this Eagle S vessel that was taken into captivity for investigation for right now and being held off the coast of Finland. They're still investigating right now. They boarded the vessel, I think, on I think it was yesterday or on Christmas, and still trying to figure out whether this ship had anything to do with cutting these cables. It looks like they're also going to be investigating the undersea cable that was damaged very soon as well. So that's just some information coming out regarding this power cable that ran from Finland over to Estonia that was reportedly cut, along with like 3 or 4 other data cables as well that were damaged in that same area on Wednesday on Christmas, okay? So now moving on to another update from Max 24. First captured North Korean soldier dies of aggravated wounds, according to Yonhap news agency, which is from South Korea. He was captured 3 days after being wounded and died a day later. Okay, so we talked about this last night. It was literally just being announced that this North Korean soldier had reportedly been captured, and looks like he may have potentially died, according to this information, in captivity, okay? So while he was captured by the Ukrainians. So that's what this information is stating, okay? Last night, all we knew was that Ukraine had captured a wounded soldier. As you can see here in the photo, it does look like he has some blood on him, like he might be wounded. Now, I do want to add as well that there was some information surfacing on X, not from like very high-level sources, but some people were sharing that potentially this man was not even alive in this picture, and they're making it appear as if he was, and they're kind of holding him upright. And there was some photos that looked very similar to him, potentially indicating that he was actually dead, okay, and he was not alive. So not sure if that was the case, but just wanted to throw that out there. That was some unconfirmed information. But also, I want to show you a couple other things. So this was another report from World Source News 24/7 breaking. South Korea spy agency says North Korean soldier captured in Ukraine war has died from injury. Okay, so I wanted to show you this. That way you see that multiple sources are sharing this information that this soldier reportedly has died from injury in captivity with the Ukrainians. And also take a look at this as well. I didn't even notice this last night. This is from Ozent Urikikoski. I'm not sure if any of the Yonhap news agency story about the captured North Korean POW, which is prisoner of war, was true now. It definitely looks like a Z on his hat that I initially missed. Now take a look at this. I thought this was interesting as well. I didn't even notice this the first time that I saw this photo also, and maybe you guys didn't either. If you look closely, there is a Z on this man's hat, possibly indicating that this could be a Russian soldier, not a North Korean soldier. But why would South Korea confirm that this was the Ukrainians if this was a Russian soldier holding on to a North Korean soldier sitting on the back of this vehicle? I thought that was very interesting, but I guess we won't really know for sure. But yeah, this was being widely reported through South Korean media yesterday. Also, lots of mainstream news was starting to pick this up, that this was a North Korean soldier captured by the Ukrainians in the Kursk region. And it looks like at the end of the day, he potentially has died in captivity anyway. So I guess it really doesn't matter. But we'll see what happens coming from this story. It definitely appears that this story is kind of spinning around in circles at the moment. Maybe we'll find out what actually happened here very soon. All right, also moving on to another update. We're going to talk about this Azerbaijan Airlines that was shot down on Christmas as well, over Grozny, eventually crashing in Kazakhstan. So I have some updates regarding that. Next, reports Azerbaijan Airlines suspends flights to Russian cities for safety reasons. Starting from December 28th, the Azerbaijani airline will cease flights to Sochi, Ufa, Samara, Volgograd, Grozny, Mineralny, Vody, and Makhalchkala. That one's kind of hard to say. Sorry, guys. Today, Kazakhstan's Kazakh Air also announced that it would not operate flights to Yekaterinburg. Comment on translation. The translation accurately reflects the original content, maintaining the specific details and formal tone. City names are transliterated in accordance with English conventions. So here's a picture of that airlines that was reportedly shot down by Russian air defense. At least that's what many mainstream news start to claim now. And even Ukraine was coming out saying that. I'll show you that information here in just a little bit. But the government of Azerbaijan is 100% convinced that this plane was shot down by a Russian air defense missile and was not due to any bird strikes or drone strikes or anything like that. So that was an update coming out today regarding this Azerbaijani Airlines. We have another one here also from Tendar. Russia suspended all flight operations in Sochi and Kazan, as well as reduced flight operations in Samara, Grozny, and Makhalchkala. The so-called Russian world loses more and more mobility. Okay, so this coming out today as well. Looks like Russia suspending their own flights in some of these same regions of Russia. This is going to be down here, southwestern Russia in Grozny. This is where that took place. We had that flight that was coming from Azerbaijan down in Baku over here, down towards the bottom of your screen, over to Grozny. That's when the aircraft reportedly was hit by a Russian air defense missile from a Panzer S-1 air defense system, and they were unable to land at any of the runways inside of Russia. Russia was pretty much denying many of these airports for access for this plane, so they were told to redirect and head over to Aktau in Kazakhstan. Supposedly they made it all the way over there, which was very good news to see. And they crash landed inside of Aktau as they were trying to head for one of the airports over there. And we had, I think, 38 people that lost their lives. 29 thankfully survived due to the training and landing of this plane from the pilots who were piloting at the time. So very big news coming out. And looks like Russia is now starting to suspend many flights in these regions due to this attack from Wednesday, on Christmas. So also for Max24, Azerbaijani President Aliyev refused to classify the investigation into the crash of a civilian plane despite the appeal of the Kremlin and Kadyrov. The plane was shot down on Russian territory in the sky of Grozny. It is impossible to deny this. Those who did it must be held criminally liable and compensation must be paid. This was according to Member of Parliament Rasim Muzabekov. Okay, he's from the Azerbaijani parliament. Okay, so this is a picture of that plane when it blew up into flames as it crashed, and he's claiming that there must be compensation being paid here, and whoever was involved in shooting down this plane, if this happened to be the Russians, which is looking like it's very highly like it was, then they must be also held criminally liable, is what he is stating. Okay. So moving on to another update from the Ukrainian Review, the plane that crashed in Kazakhstan was shot down by Russian Panzer S-1 air defense system, according to the head of the GUR, which is Ukraine's Directorate Intelligence, and this was Budanov. Okay, and it says, "P.S. Will Russia be punished?" Okay, so even we have the head of the GUR, Kirill Budanov, coming out and saying that this plane actually was shot down by a Russian Panzer S-1 air defense system. So lots of sources are claiming that now. It looks like that was highly likely the case. So that was an update coming out from Ukraine. Also from the Ukrainian Review, Putin has flatly rejected the Trump's team offer to delay Ukraine's NATO membership for at least 10 years as a condition for ending the war. On December 26th, he said it didn't matter whether Ukraine joined NATO today, tomorrow, or in 10 years, according to the Institute for the Study of War. So we've been hearing that part of Ukraine's potential end to this war. We've been hearing from the Trump administration and some of his team that they may push for trying to, delay Ukraine's invitation to NATO for up to 10 years, maybe even 20 years. We've been kind of hearing that. Well, Vladimir Putin's coming out and saying that, well, we're not okay with any delay of Ukraine joining NATO. We don't want Ukraine joining NATO, period. So it looks like they're not going to be okay with that. So we'll see what happens when it comes to Ukraine joining NATO in the near future or in the next 10 to 20 years, what we've been hearing. Okay, also from Max 24, preparation for participation in military operations will last 2 months instead of 1.5. Conditions are being created for this, according to Oleksandr Syrsky, who is the commander of Ukraine's armed forces. This man right here on the left in the picture. P.S. In your opinion, will the hot phase of the war end in 2025? Okay, so the reason why he's asking this question on will the hot phase of the war end in 2025 is Ukraine is also pushing back their time frame to 2 months now. Instead of 1.5 months, they're pushing it to 2 months for training for military operations inside of Ukraine to head to the front line. Apparently, they're trying to extend that up to 2 months for training for any new recruits for Ukraine's military. So that could possibly indicate that maybe they are preparing for a long run when it comes to this war and a long drawn-out war. But we'll see what happens. But that was some news coming out today from Oleksandr Syrsky. Also now a few updates on the front line of Ukraine. This from Max 24. AFU were forced to retreat to the border with the Dnipropetrovsk region. The last line of defense remained, according to soldier Muknoy. I'm not sure if it's Muknoy. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, guys. But one update here coming out from the Pokrovsk direction, okay? So Pokrovsk, we've been talking a lot about this over the last couple months. That's this city right here, okay? Major rail and transport hub for Ukraine in the Eastern Front in the Donetsk region. And as you can see here, the Ukrainians were pushed up into the Donetsk region here, and they had to fall back to this dotted line here. As you can see, this is the entrance to the Dnipropetrovsk region, okay? So it's the region directly behind the Donetsk region, and it looks like the Russians are starting to circle around behind Pokrovsk, okay? So we could be hearing very soon that the city could be falling. They have been getting closer and closer every day. I think they're anywhere from like 2 to 6 kilometers from the center of Pokrovsk, okay? So they're getting very close to surrounding the city, at least moving on the southern side. Looks like they have not moved up on the northern end of it just yet, but definitely on the south, it is getting very bad. So the Ukrainians had to retreat a little bit to the Dnipropetrovsk region, okay? So not looking good for Ukraine in that area. Also for Max 24, yesterday the occupiers again attempted to land on Kozatsky Island near Kherson. The spokesman for the AFU reported the attempt was repelled, but the enemy continues to try to take new positions with assaults and shelling, as well as continuing further attempts to land on the island. Okay, so take a look at this. This is down near Kherson, okay, and this is what we've been reporting over the last probably 4 or 5 days now, is that the Russians were preparing assaults onto the city of Kherson, which is right over here. It might be a little hard to see, but just to the east over here, we have we have this Kozatsky Island, okay? And we were hearing also from the Russians that they were trying to gain a foothold in the eastern bank, or the right bank is what they were saying, of Kherson, which would have been over here in this area. This would be considered the right bank, because Kherson's over here. And it looks like the Russians tried to push onto this island, this very green looking island here in the center of this picture, and they were essentially wiped out once again. So this is 2 or 3 times now that we've seen Russians try to assault positions over here, and it looks like the Ukrainians so far have been successfully at holding the Russians back. So that was an update out of Kherson. Also, from Nexta, in Russia, St. Petersburg, a new metro station was opened for the first time in 5 years. The escalators broke down just 6 minutes after opening. So this was a new metro station that was opened up in Russia. This is video footage coming out from there, and reportedly, the escalator stopped working after 6 minutes. So not sure if they got it back online, but it looks like it broke down pretty quickly soon after opening this up in St. Petersburg, okay? Also from Anton Gerashenko, a large-scale failure in the heating system occurred in the Russian city of Novosibirsk. More than 120 buildings were left without heating at a temperature of minus 16 degrees Celsius. In recent years, communal accidents have become more and more frequent in Russian cities, and even more so in small towns and villages. The reason is the same. The infrastructure, worn out to the limit, does not withstand even the minimum load. Attempts to repair worn-out equipment only lead to that during pressure testing and water supply, it breaks in other places, utility workers say. But the Russian authorities do not care about such trifles as the health and lives of Russian citizens. For well-known reasons, they are busy destroying Ukraine's energy infrastructure and killing civilians. Instead of funding major repairs where needed, Russia spends huge amounts of money on missiles and drones that terrorize Ukrainian cities every day. Okay, so this was a update coming out from Russia as well. Once again, now the city of Novosibirsk having issues with heating. Okay, now we've been reporting so many cities having infrastructure problems, sometimes pipes bursting. We had a hot water pipe burst, I think, in St. Petersburg at one point, flooding the streets, creating a giant pool of hot water. Some people are even burned by them. So he's kind of, basically just saying here that, the Russians are so focused on this war, they could be spending a lot of this money on their infrastructure. We've been hearing a lot of talk about this, but still Russia continues to focus on this war inside of Ukraine instead of helping their own citizens and repairing infrastructure throughout their nation. Also, take a look at this from Igor Sushko. Russia, locomotives started burning during repairs in Leningrad region, okay? So we even have another locomotive once again, okay? We've been seeing so many derailing, crashing into each other. Now we have another locomotive that was undergoing repairs. During the repairs, somehow managed to catch on fire. We can see here the emergency crews trying to put out the flames on this train, okay? So lots of issues with Russia's cargo trains recently as well, okay? There's just been derailments everywhere. Again, like I said, crashing into each other, head-on collisions. Very insane situation with Russia's cargo trains, okay? Also from Anton Gerashenko, a tanker from the Kremlin's shadow fleet paralyzed traffic in the Bosphorus. This is the 4th Russian vessel to have gone out of order in the Black Sea in the past 2 weeks. A 274-meter long Cordelia Moon vessel under the flag of Panama had an engine failure. The 18-year-old vessel was heading from the Turkish port of Yalova to Novorossiysk. Cordelia Moon is one of the Kremlin's shadow fleet vessels. According to Lloyd's List, it has made numerous voyages between Russia and India. On September 30th, the vessel was attacked by the Houthis in the Red Sea as it was mistaken for a British one. I think I actually remember reporting that one just a couple months back when it came under attack by the Houthis. But here's reportedly a picture of one of these vessels, or very similar, probably just used to for reference of this vessel that the engine died on it, okay? And this is multiple tankers that we've seen, some of them breaking up in the Black Sea, causing major environmental damage. Recently, we reported that. I think it was 2 or 3 tankers where that happened to. We've had at least 2 or 3 just over the last several weeks that the engines are dying. So this is probably highly likely due to sanctions. As we know, a lot of these sanctions are targeting Russian ships, and a lot of times they can't even get the equipment to repair a lot of the engines and upkeep them. So we've been seeing a lot of this, okay? This got to be putting a major hamper on on Russia's economy also, as they use these to transport fuel and all kinds of equipment around the world. So very big news coming out today also regarding that. Now, from the Ukrainian Review, Ukraine has prepared everything for second peace summit. We are in a strong diplomatic position, according to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman, Taiki. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Zelensky, as promised, we are supporting Syrian people in their time of need. 500 tons of Ukrainian wheat flour are already on their way to Syria. Okay, so two big messages coming out from Ukraine today. One from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesman, Taiki, stating that they're ready for a second peace summit and they're in a strong diplomatic position. Now, we have been hearing also that there was supposed to be a second peace summit by the end of the year. I mean, we're just a few days away before we hit January, and I have not heard of another peace summit that was going to be held. So I'm not sure if this will be done in January or what's going to happen here. But looks like a second peace summit is coming. They are ready for that. And then also, we heard recently that Ukraine was going to be delivering 500 tons of Ukrainian wheat flour over to Syria, as Syria's supplies were cut off from the Russians after the Russians got chased out of there when Bashar al-Assad and his regime fell inside of Syria. So that was some big news coming out today. Looks like they have sent 500 tons of wheat flour over to Syria to help out with the Syrian civilians over there. All right, now from Andriy Naumov, Ukraine's new missile Trembita is a breakthrough in modern warfare developed by volunteer engineers. It uses an updated World War II era engine to strike deep into enemy territory for just $15,000 per missile. So that's $15,000, by the way, a fraction of conventional costs per The Economist, with a 125 mile range and an advanced version aimed at Moscow. Trembita is designed to overwhelm Russian air defenses while revitalizing Ukraine's defense industry. However, scaling production is urgent. Experts warn it could take at least a year to produce enough missiles to make a decisive impact. Okay, so this was an update regarding this Trembita missile that we've been talking about. We did a whole video on this last week, and I wasn't sure how much these missiles costed at the time, and I did hear that it was somewhere around $15,000 per missile, and it looks like that is the case, okay? That is extremely cheap for a missile. Yeah, $15,000. That is going to be very cost effective for the Ukrainians if they can start mass producing these. And then also think about, compared to a Russian air defense missile, it could be costing way much more than just $15,000 for these Trembita missiles. And also, apparently, they have two versions of this. They have strike missiles that actually have a warhead on them, and then they also have some that are designed to be decoys to exhaust Russian air defense systems, okay? So very big news coming out today regarding that Trembita missile. All right, a couple more things to share with you before we get you out of here from Max 24. Ukrainian air defense shot down 24 Shahed UAVs, including 13 UAVs were shot down by air defense and 11 Shaheeds were suppressed by electronic warfare. Okay, so if you've noticed over the last couple of days, ever since on Christmas where we had that very massive attack, there was something like 100 or 200 drones that were fired into Ukraine and somewhere around 70 cruise missiles that were also fired into Ukraine from the Russians. Ever since then, the last couple of days, we've been seeing very little amounts of drones being fired into Ukraine. So I wonder also, there was a report that just came out, I think it was like on Saturday of last week, something like that, that there was an industry that was struck far into Russian territory. I can't remember the region, but it was supposedly a $16 million operation where they were building lots of these Shahed drones, okay? And apparently it was struck and destroyed, I think, from Ukrainian drones. So I wonder if that had something to do with Russia's production of drones. Maybe that's why we're not seeing too many of them flying into Ukraine right now. But it's something that I wanted to note over the last couple days is not too many attacks to report inside of Ukraine. Finally, one last thing from the Kyiv Independent. These are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of December 27th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. So here's our daily update of Russian losses according to the Ukrainian military. 1,650 troops, 18 APVs, 82 vehicles and fuel tanks, 14 tanks, quite a bit more tanks than usual is being reported, 22 artillery systems, 28 UAVs, 1 special equipment, and 1 anti-aircraft warfare system. All right, so these are some of the indicative losses of the Russian side, according to Ukrainian intelligence. And that's going to be it for today's update, guys. I want to thank you so much for tuning in for this very big update today, as we found out that Ukrainian Himars wiped out 3 Russian officers during a major high level meeting in the Zaporizhzhia region. So let me know what you think of all this information down below. Share your thoughts, concerns, and opinions down in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. With that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care. God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.